Cheap work boots suck. Or do they? Recently, I was asked by a viewer whether it was better to have 2 pairs of okay work boots or 1 pair of great work boots. And the question is a really good one because I'm inclined to say, well, you should get 1 great pair. 1 pair, custom made, perfect fit, built like a tank. But then again, he brings up a good point. Because if you don't have a boot dryer and you can't let your boots recover and dry out, well, then you invite all kinds of nasty stuff like athlete's foot fungus, just bad stuff in general. So is it better to have 2 different boots that you switch on and off, maybe if you're working in the mud or in the wet, and then you can put on the other pair the next day? Or is it better to have 1 pair? And where do you put your money? This is a good question, so it made me go out and find 2 pairs of pretty affordable work boots to offer as an alternative. Now, the answer really is going to depend on what it is that you do for a living. For example, if you're a trim carpenter and you spend most of your time in finished spaces or nearly finished spaces, and you're working, in that kind of condition, well, then it makes sense to have 1 great pair of work boots because they're not really getting wet or dirty. On the other hand, if you work in a place where they're always getting wet and dirty and they really need time to recover. For example, when I was a mechanic, I used to get oil and grease and all kinds of stuff on my boots. What I would do is I would come home, clean them off, try to let them dry out, and then wear them the next day. It's hard to do if you only have 1 pair of boots. So it's really going to depend on who you are and your application. So if you're somebody who wants 2 different pairs of work boots, I have 2 very different boots to offer. So considering that custom work boots start at around $400 and then go up into the $600 range for work boots I'm talking about, Whites, Wesco, Nicks, that kind of thing, let's look at taking that and cutting it in half. Let's look at options only under $200. Now, you have to accept some things when you go below $200. You're not gonna have, layer upon layer of thick leather underneath your foot. You're not gonna have exotic or fancy leathers. You're not gonna have triple stitching and all kinds of perfect finishing. There are certain things that you have to accept at this price level. I think most people understand that and accept that. And let's not forget, these are work boots meant to do a purpose, meant to keep you comfortable and safe while doing your job. But that doesn't mean that there aren't great boots at this level. For example, a lot of people have been asking me to review the Die Hard boots that I think are on the Essential Craftsman channel. I've seen that video a couple times. They look great. I'd like to get a pair of those in the future, but I wanted to find 2 that most likely you haven't heard of before. I don't want to rehash the same thing over and over again. So the 2 brands that I have for you today are Jim Green and Silverado boots. Let's take a look at Jim Green first. Now, these were actually brought to my attention by a commenter who told me to take a look at Jim Green because he said that they are kind of like the Red Wing equivalent over in South Africa. And the cool thing about looking at, products from another country like this is that they tend to do things just a little bit different. Now, the model that I've been wearing is the Razorback, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen these plenty because I've been putting them through their paces since late 2019. These are actually styled more after a hiking boot with their padded top and gusseted tongue. They almost kind of remind me of some of the Danner hiking boots. They look very, very similar. But then again, when you get a little bit closer, you start to see a little bit of those details, most notably that bright yellow calf-lined interior. That's very interesting. Those green laces, the branding on the outside heel, everything about these is just a little bit different. The leather is locally sourced in South Africa. It's a full grain leather. The eyelets and the hooks are all double riveted. The stitch down construction is done using 2 rows of braided stitching, and they're actually stitched closer together to allow space for future resoles. The toe and the heel are structured with thermoplastic to add a little bit more rigidity and overall stability to the boot. The best part about these boots, though, they come in at $129. Let me say that again, just in case you didn't hear it. $129. You're getting a heck of a lot of boot for that money. So I looked into it a little bit further because they gotta be cutting corners somewhere, right? And it doesn't look like it's in the construction or the materials that they use. So then I looked into it, and it turns out that they're actually paying 100% of the footwear construction wage down there in South Africa. So, they're doing things the right way and ethically and sourcing a lot of their materials from South Africa, putting the money back into their economy. So $129, you are getting a boot that, when you look at it, when a Red Wing or a Wolverine or a Chippewa costs 3 times as much, well then you would logically say these must be a third of the quality. and that's just not the case. These punch way above their weight. Now, there are a couple of things that I don't like about them. Most notably, the insole. It's not that great. Now, it's durable, there's no doubt about that. It's made out of some sort of a woven kind of fiber board, but I think that's a place where they saved a little bit of money, and the cool thing about that is that if you take out that insole and you add in like a custom orthotic, you have one killer pair of boots. Now, as I mentioned, I've been wearing these for the last few months, and you can see that dye has worn off the toe there from where I've kneeled down, and you know, they've gotten some patina to them. They are a work boot, and that's exactly the way that I treated them. Jim Green also uses their own sole. Now, this looks a lot like a Vibram sole, but this is actually a South African Jim Green branded sole. Now, it's plenty traction. I've never had a problem with traction. It does the job beautifully. It's a nice compromise between softness and durability. They did a great job there. What I love about these boots, though, is they are supremely comfortable. And aside from the insole, which I mentioned you may want to change out, but when you do, these are exceptionally comfortable. Enough so that there was no break-in period. I put these on, they were good to go. And a lot of that's due to the articulated heel section here, the padded top, which as I mentioned is a lot like a hiker, the padded and gusseted tongue to allow, you know, debris to stay out of your boot. Everything about this is extremely comfortable. And the cool thing is, when I asked Jim Green about these, they said that people in South Africa will often have these resold 2 or 3 times. So let's just take a look at your cost per wear. You buy these for $129, you throw in like a $50 insole, something really, really nice. For under 200 bucks, you have a great boot. Then you get that thing resold a couple of times. Your cost per wear is gonna be fractions of a cent. So the other problem with the Jim Greens, as I mentioned, there's a couple things that are issues here. Number one is the insole. The second thing is they're really hard to get. Right now, you can get them on Amazon. And as I understand it, they are looking for US distribution, but that means that you can't try these on beforehand. So at least if you live in the United States. You can't try them on, which means it might be kind of hard to figure out if you need a wide size, a narrow size, if they run big or small. In my experience, these fit true to size, but you can't try them on, and you can't go to your local store and just exchange them the next day. You have to get them through Amazon and then get them shipped to you from South Africa. So it's one of those things that there's no such thing as a free lunch. The price is low, the quality is really good, they're a wonderful work boot, but there's always that downside, and that really comes to availability. But if they do get distribution over here and they are available in stores, these things are going to take the US market by storm. I think these are going to be like the default work boot, especially for people who want more than one or who are just getting into their trade before they step up to like a custom job. I see no reason why you couldn't wear these full-time at your career. They really are excellent. But maybe you are a red, white, and blue-collared American through and through. You like to support US products, the US economy, US workers, all that stuff. Well, in that case, I have an option for you as well in the form of the Silverado boots. Now, the cool thing about these guys, just as the Jim Green source a lot of their stuff from South Africa, it just makes sense. The supply chain being on the same continent as yourself, you don't have to worry about embargoes and shipping and all that kind of stuff. It's easier to get. Well, they did the same thing, but here on US soil. So that means that the leather is sourced from the US, the insole, the sole itself, the split reverse welt, everything is sourced from the US. Now, there might be some foreign small parts in there. I'm not sure where the thread comes from or the shoelaces. By and large, these are sourced in the US and built in Pennsylvania. So, an American boot through and through for, get this, under 200 bucks. Now, where the Jim Greens look more like a hiking boot, these are definitely the work boot silhouette that you and I are probably used to. These look like a work boot through and through. If you saw these, if you just saw them backlit, you would know that they are a work boot. They have everything that you come to expect. I mean, look, everything from that honey vibram sole there to the color, that sort of wheat color that you get on a lot of work boots, to just the height. This is the 6-inch height. They do come in an 8-inch version. Everything about it is a pure blood American work boot, or as far as I know, just a work boot. I mean, this is what we've come to know. But not only do they look the part, but they have the goods to serve as well. So these are all available in steel toe or soft toe, and even the steel toe versions are electrically certified. So they keep you safe, they work right, and just looking at it, you know that these things they're gonna do the job. Those soles have been found on job sites across the country for years and years. They're excellent. These are unlined, so they're actually going to shine a lot more in the hot months. And as I mentioned, they are available in an 8-inch version. These are the 6-inch version, and you can get them in a narrow or regular and wide fit. So if you have wide feet, you can get a boot to fit you. Now, these did require a little bit of break-in, just a couple of days, because the leather's a little bit thicker here. This is 5 to 6 ounce oil tanned leather, as I mentioned, full grain sourced in the US. And so, of course, around the top here where your ankle is, you have to break that in just a little bit. Overall, though, not too bad, especially because it's unlined. There's not really a lot of structure there to break down, so they become soft pretty quickly. And I think that's, again, where these shine. That insole that they're using in there is, it's very much like an athletic shoe. These are extremely comfortable to stand in all day long, especially if you like that kind of thing. Now, I prefer a stiffer leather insole. A lot of people don't, and I understand that. And wearing these is kind of a nice departure from that. While that's very structured and it forms to your foot, there is something nice about putting on a nice, soft-feeling pair of boots, which these are. Now, another thing that Silverado did right is they used nice, durable speed hooks, but they also put an eyelet above the speed hooks. That's especially useful if you're going to be going up and down ladders all day, or if your day is just going to be really active, or maybe long, you're working a longer shift. That way, if it does come off a speed hook, the laces don't completely fall off the boot. They stay at the top. This is a really good way of kind of locking down your boots. When you tie them and you put them through those eyelets, they're not going to go anywhere. They're definitely not going to slip out. So I love the fact that they did that, but there is one thing that I think that they could have done better. It's one thing I don't like about these boots. They only use 3 eyelets down here, 6 in total, beneath the speed hooks. I think that they should have used 2 more. So 4 in total, 8 in total, I'm sorry, right here below the speed hooks, because what ends up happening is if these do come untied, they tend to fall apart really quickly. They tend to open up very fast, which means that if you are unfortunate enough to have your shoes come untied, they just kind of fall off your foot. So I think if they had put maybe 1 more eyelet on either side there, it may have helped with just the structure overall. If they do come untied, they may stay on your foot a little bit longer, but overall, it's a small complaint. And in a way, when you go ahead and take these off at the end of the day, it is kind of nice to take them off those speed hooks and they just basically fall off your feet. So I guess it's a double-edged sword in that regard. These come in, as I mentioned, just under $200 at like $198, but try to find me an American-sourced, American-made boot of this level of quality for less. I have not seen it. So I think that this is a great option if you're more into the classic work boot look, or if you're an American or you just like to support the American economy, this is another great option. So there you go. If you want to switch out between 2 work boots instead of buying 1, which I do understand in some applications, these are 2 great options. Now, there's plenty of them out there. There's a lot of great boots, which I've probably never heard of, just like I never heard of these before. But I want to hear from you. Let me know which boots you like. Are there any brands that I totally missed here? What would you recommend to somebody if they said, hey, I'm looking to get 2 decent but moderately priced boots? What would you recommend? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you next time.